Kooijmans. I work at Team Rockstars IT. I'm a consultant, and in my daily life, and I have been working with Azure for years, and I'd like to share something that caught my eye a few years ago, and that is named Azure Container Instances. For the past year, I've been working with Docker because we need to check it, and we need to embrace it and try it, and the market is asking for it, so we need to use it. And what startled me most about Docker is that if you have a Docker instance or a container instance, where or how can you use it? So if you master Docker, then what can you do with it and where can you do it? The most common buzzword that you'll hear is Kubernetes or Docker Swarm or App Fabric, or maybe something else. But I would like to talk about Azure Container Instances because I find that a very lean and mean fit for what I would like to do. So let's set the scene. I have, who here knows about Xcopy deployments? It's been common, everyone has a friend that does Xcopy deployments, which means you have exe and DLLs, you copy them to the server, and then you run it, and then that's how we worked years ago. In the old-fashioned way, you have maybe a VM instead of a direct access to a server, and if you are on that VM, then you have an RDP session or SSH session with Linux. You go to it, you copy your files to it, and you make it run, and you get out of it. So such kind of software may look like this. I have a little console application which works with storage accounts for the queue. So I have a setup that's doing creation of the queue. I hope it's visible for everyone. Then I have the polling, while true, get a message, do something with the message, and finally delete the message if it all went okay. Well, I can run this instance. What this does with a message, it deserializes the message, and the message is just an integer. It's amount of delay you want to work. It's just a fake to have some work, but you can imagine that there's always real work to be done. But for now I have this little example. I can run it directly to see that it actually works. It says it's waiting for 10 seconds, and if a queue message comes, it starts working on it. So I have my queue here. It's a queue in Azure. I can put a message on it. Oh, sorry, that's the queue. I can put a message on that queue. Let's say 5, which means wait for 5 seconds. It's on the queue. It's polling every 10 seconds, so it could kick in any minute. Or it just misses it. Oh, right. I have another one running in the background, so it's already done. Let's make some more, because there's already a worker running in Azure. See, now you see it's picked up, found a new message, working for 5 seconds, and then it starts polling again. But wouldn't it be nice to use this in Docker? Well, fortunately, Visual Studio has some good integration for it. You just do add container orchestrator support. And then you can choose Service Fabric, but I choose Docker Compose now. Now you'll see that it automatically adds 2 files. There's a Docker file and there's a YAML file. The Docker Compose YAML is just saying, this is my console application that I would like to build, and use this file to build it, which refers to this one. And this is a very lean and mean Docker file. It says take a Windows server with .NET Core framework, of .NET framework, copy your stuff on it, like an Xcopy deployment, and run the exe. So now if I build this in Visual Studio, you'll see in the output that it will start building the Docker file as well. So it builds the stuff you'll expect, the DLL, the exe, and it also will start building your Docker. And for those who don't know Docker is mainly a command line tool with lots of commands. So Docker has a run, you can build, and like any versioning system, you can do a pull and push. So let's see if it starts building. Oh, well, it didn't build. No, doesn't matter, I already built it. In Docker images, you'll see I have my built Docker images. So I have my Docker image that has been built, and I can run it as follows. I can first run it detached, or for detached daemon. Then it runs in the background, and you'll get an ID back and start listening to the standard out. You can inspect that it's running to see that this key comes in the processes that are returned. You could inspect that machine. You go like this. You see the log of the machine that it is running. And if you don't want to use it anymore, you could also kill the app, such that you could clean up. Now it's gone. But now I'm still running this Docker container on my own local host. It would be nice if I could use this container for the tester, the front ender, the back ender, everyone from development acceptance to production. So I could use like a versioning system. I'm using Azure Container Registry. You can find Azure Container Registry and Azure Container Instances in your Azure portal. Hopefully I have some internet. Well, that is loading. I could see all my images, and this is the latest build that I'm using, but I could always tag it. So I could say this one that is has been built for me, I want it to end up on my registry in Azure, and I want to give it a version. So if you then rerun the Docker images, then you'll see it reuses the same image because nothing has changed, but it also has a version now. Then you can push this all the way to the cloud. And so I'm not going to wait for that because internet is very slow here, but you could push it so, and then it ends up in the Azure registry. It finished loading. I have an Azure registry which does not load very quickly now. Well, while that's loading, I could look into the Azure Container Instance that I've run. In the Azure registry, there is like a source code repo. You have repositories. So there's a repositories. Internet is very slow. In the repositories, you'll see my apps that I uploaded. You can even see the versions that I've uploaded. And with this, I I could, if my Docker image would be a web app, I could straight deploy to an Azure web app, but I could also run an instance, which is basically like a VM. I'd like to call it VM as a service or something. You get a little form. This is the only thing you need to provide. How many cores, how many memory, and Windows or Linux, and spin me one machine up for that. So in Docker, this is a very nice first step to start using Docker and containers, because the endpoint might be scaling, that you want more of this, then you might be looking into Azure Batch or something, or App Fabric, or you want infrastructure as code, then maybe Kubernetes might be in handy. But now for just one replacement of a simple old school VM, I'd like to pitch the Azure Container Instance. So this is just simple cores and memory. You get even more choice if you take the big form. In there you can provide the same stuff, but even more. You can configure networking, you can configure environment variables, and you can also configure extra secrets that you want to share with it. Well, internet is very slow here, but I've already created a Docker container instance. Already 3 of them. And the good thing for me is that it works like a VM, I would like to say. So I have my container running. I can see when it was started, when it was spinning up. I could inspect properties. So here would be listed. I would be listing the environment variables, like you could give. You can give that as input in the forms. Azure Container Instance, yes. I want one. It doesn't load the new form. I could also load the logs of the machine. So this is exactly the same log that you've seen before. This is a machine running in Azure with my Docker. It says waiting for 10 seconds and then found a new message, done working. So I could scroll all the way to the end. It's still pulling the queue. I could go to my storage account. My storage account would be opening. Yes. So I could again put messages on my storage account. Well, I could be doing that if it would be working, yeah. So I go to my queues, find the queue that I'm working with. Yeah, well, there's 2 things I would like to show. The container instance form of creating a new container instance, but it wouldn't load. I think everybody is using the same Wi-Fi as I'm doing right now. And the other one is I'd like to put a message on the queue like you saw before, but well, you have to believe me that it worked because I've done it before. Then it picks up the message, finds the message, and here you see that it was running in the background before because, well, I put 2 messages on. One was running on my own PowerShell window, the other one was running in Azure Container Instance. And hopefully this works to end off with this. You could also start a session on that machine in the browser, so no RDP session anymore. It's Linux-wise, it's defaults, but you could also start up a command action. And then you can run on that container like you were using an RDP session. So now I'm here on my machine. I could request all the files that are in my current working there. You'll see my DLLs and axes are nicely copied over there. I could even go one step higher. Well, no, it doesn't react anymore. I think the internet is bugging me. Yeah, it's there. Well, I could better show it locally than what I would like to see on that machine. I could run this Docker instance like I showed you in a detached way, but I could also run it in an interactive way. Then I'll say not D for detached, but I'll say IT for interactive terminal. And then I go onto that machine, it will spin it up. And what you'll now see is it will start automatically what my entry point was. It will start with my exit and wait for the queue. It's a big Windows VM of about 10 gigabytes. You saw it before. So it's taking a while for spinning it up. Oh, there it is. It's very slow at the moment. I think the internet will not work with me today. I would like to do a dir in this location, and then what it will show is it will state that there's a Windows folder in it like you would expect on a normal C share. But I don't know why. Right, now you'll see this is my local Docker image. This is waiting for a new message. I could also override it. Then I say I don't want the default entry point to be used, but I would like a command exit terminal to be used. And then it spins up the same VM, but the starting point is different, like you saw it in the browser. You'll see a bit faster now because there's no browser involved. My exe and DLL. I could go one step higher, and then you'll see it's like a Windows VM. But the only thing that matters is there's DLLs and exes over there. And what I find it's a very what my takeaway with this is it's a very good way to get started with Docker and containers, because you have your Docker container, you started it's just a lift and shift from your VM as you know it into a Docker container instance. And from there you can plan using Azure Batch or Kubernetes because you already have the container. Well, that is what I'd like to show. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?